The casserole was still in the oven when she slipped on her heels. Not that she remembered it. I only noticed because the smell of burning cheese hit me while I stood frozen in the hallway, watching her apply lipstick in the entryway mirror. Lipstick? On a Wednesday night? For book club? Sure. Did you forget something? I asked. She didn't even glance back. What do you mean? I pointed at the oven. Dinner. Oh, she said, like the word weighed 1,000 pounds. I thought you ate already. We hadn't eaten dinner together in 12 days. I know that because I counted. Not out loud. Quietly, in my head, like some sad little ritual each night as I sat alone at the table, pretending her silence wasn't louder than words. But this night was different. Because this time, she didn't fake a reason. She didn't say she was heading to the store or checking on her sister's baby. She just grabbed her keys like I was some roommate she barely tolerated and walked toward the front door like she had nothing to lose. That's when I said it. Go ahead, I told her, my voice shaking harder than my hands. But the second you walk out that door, our marriage is over. Don't even think about coming back. She froze mid-step, just for a second. Then slowly, she turned around. Calm, calculated, and said the words that shattered whatever was left of my delusion. You're not the one I'm coming back to. And just like that, she opened the door. But here's what she didn't see. While she was busy playing games, I'd already started mine. And I wasn't bluffing. The door shut behind her with a click that felt louder than any scream. Not a slam, just final, like the sound of a sentence ending. I didn't move for a while. I stared at the door like maybe it would open back up and she'd say, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I got lost. But it didn't. She was gone, and she wasn't looking over her shoulder. That line she threw at me, you're not the one I'm coming back to. It wasn't just cruel. It was calculated. She wanted to leave a wound, not just an exit. But the thing is, I wasn't completely unprepared. See, 3 days before this moment, I got a text from an unknown number at 2:14 in the morning. It just said, you don't deserve this. Check room 618 at the Addison Suites. No punctuation, no context, just that. I thought it was spam, honestly, but something about it felt real, like someone was trying to quietly save my life. So I went. I drove to the Addison Suites in a hoodie and sweatpants like some washed-up detective from a bad TV show. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Room 618 was at the far end of the hallway. I remember because I passed the ice machine and thought about how my wife once said hotel ice tasted cleaner than ours. Dumb detail. But that's what I was thinking. And when I knocked, I didn't expect anyone to answer. But the door cracked open, and there he was. Some guy? Younger than me. Shirtless. Smirking. Mallory's in the shower. He said like we were friends, like I was expected. She told me you'd come eventually. I didn't say a word. I didn't push the door. I didn't swing. I just stood there like my brain had short-circuited. And then, I walked away. Not because I was weak, but because I knew right then I was going to end this on my terms. So yeah, by the time she strutted toward the door that night, I had already spoken to a lawyer. I had already removed my name from the joint accounts. I had already rented a storage unit and begun boxing up my life, piece by piece, when she left the house for her errands. And, maybe worst of all, I had already written the letter. The one I left on her pillow. The one she'd find when she came back, expecting to see a broken version of me waiting to beg her to stay. It was short. Just 7 words. You made your choice. So did I. Let her stare at that for a while. She came back at 4:37 in the morning. I know the exact time because I was sitting on the floor of the empty guest room, staring at my phone, waiting for a message that never came. When the lock turned, my heart jumped like an idiot's, even though I told myself I was done hoping. She walked in quietly at first, like a kid sneaking past a sleeping parent. I heard her heels in her hand, the soft thud of her purse hitting the counter, the familiar sigh she always made when she thought she was alone. For a second, I almost stepped out and said something. Anything. I almost ruined everything by being the same weak version of myself she'd learned to walk all over. Then I heard her say my name. Not loud, not angry, just confused. She turned on the hallway light and froze. I could see it from where I was sitting. The pause, the silence stretching too long. The framed photos were gone. Our wedding picture. The dumb vacation photo where I'm sunburned and squinting. Even the cheap art we argued about at the mall. All gone. Clean walls. Empty nails. She walked faster after that. opening doors, checking rooms. The bedroom hit her the hardest. Half the closet empty. Drawers pulled open. My nightstand bare. No charger. No watch. No note there, because I wanted her to search for answers, not be handed them. Then she found the letter on the pillow. I didn't see her read it, but I heard her. That sharp inhale. The way paper crinkles when someone grips it too tight. She said my name again, this time louder, like if she said it enough times I'd magically appear and fix things like I always did. I didn't move. My phone buzzed 5 minutes later. One text. Where are you? I stared at it until the screen dimmed. I felt sick. Not triumphant. Not proud. Just hollow. Because even after everything, some stupid part of me still cared what her face looked like when she realized I meant it. Then another text came through. This isn't funny. That one actually made me laugh. A dry, broken sound that surprised me. Funny. Like betrayal was a joke. Like disappearing from a marriage was something you did for attention. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, she called. I watched the phone vibrate in my hand until it stopped. Then she called again. And again. By the 5th call, she was crying. I could tell just by the way the ringtone kept restarting, frantic, uneven. That's when it finally hit her. I wasn't chasing. I wasn't begging. I wasn't waiting by the door like a loyal dog. I was gone. And the man she walked out on, the quiet one, the predictable one, wasn't coming back the way she expected. By the time the sun came up, she had already tried calling me 14 times. I know because I watched the number climb like a timer counting down her panic. I didn't answer once. I wasn't ready to hear her voice, not yet. I wanted her to stew in it, to wonder how I'd slipped through her fingers without a warning or a goodbye. I knew her. I knew she'd assumed I'd still be sitting in that house, waiting to talk it out, begging to understand, asking how I could fix what she shattered. That was her pattern. She crossed lines, and I erased them. But not this time. I checked the camera feed from the security system I never told her I upgraded. At 6:13 a.m., she stormed out the front door in her bathrobe, barefoot, phone in hand, screaming into the void. I couldn't hear the audio, but I could see her mouth moving. Furious, maybe scared, maybe both. She walked in circles on the driveway like she was waiting for me to pull up, like she still believed I hadn't actually left. I watched her sit down on the porch steps like a woman abandoned, not a woman who walked away on her own terms. I turned off the feed. She didn't get to cry now. Not after what I saw at that hotel. Not after the weeks of distance, of lies, of that sick smile she gave when I told her walking out meant it was over. She thought she could control the ending like she controlled everything else. But I had already moved the pieces while she was too distracted to notice. I had called her mother the night before I disappeared. I told her everything. Every little piece of rot Mallory thought she'd hidden. Her mother didn't say much, just gasped, whispered, "Oh my God," and then asked me if I was safe. I told her I would be. And I told her not to let Mallory use her as a messenger. If she wanted answers, she'd have to live with the silence. Then I wiped our shared accounts clean, not illegally, just my half. I left her with exactly what she'd brought into the marriage. No more, no less. I canceled the lease on her car, froze the credit card she used for her little girl's nights, which were really just dinner dates with a man who wasn't me. I even returned the new necklace she'd bought herself 2 weeks earlier. Funny how the receipt had his name on the shipping invoice. Now I sat in a hotel 2 towns over, watching the clock, waiting to see how long it would take before she cracked. At 8:22 a.m., she sent me a voice message. I didn't open it. I just saved it to a folder I had created called Truth. Maybe one day I'd listen to all of them. Maybe not. And then silence. No calls. No texts. Just like that. The same silence she'd weaponized against me for months suddenly became the only thing left between us. But the best part? She still had no idea what else I'd uncovered, what I was planning next, and who had helped me do it. It all started with a USB drive. A tiny, silver one with a cracked plastic cap and a little sticker on it that said Q3 proposals. I found it by accident in the center console of her car, wedged between an old receipt and an empty lip gloss tube. She used to be careful. Too careful. But somewhere along the way, maybe she got lazy, or maybe she just didn't believe I'd ever look closely enough to find it. But I did. I plugged it into my laptop at the hotel that same night, half expecting to see spreadsheets or work files. But no. What I opened was a folder called Binton, and inside were dozens of photos and videos. Private ones. Some blurred, some way too clear. All of them time-stamped. Most taken in hotel rooms, a few in the back seat of a car, and one that made my stomach twist, in our living room. Our couch. The one she swore up and down she never liked sitting on anymore. I guess it just depended on who she was sitting with. There was one video in particular I couldn't stop watching, not because I wanted to, but because of what it revealed. She was laughing, holding a glass of wine, curled up beside him. And in the background, on the TV, was the pause screen of a movie we'd started watching together weeks earlier. She'd told me she didn't like it. Too slow, she'd said. Apparently, it played just fine when he was there. I didn't throw the laptop. I didn't scream or cry. I just sat there and stared, feeling something inside me snap, so cleanly, it was almost peaceful. I realized then this wasn't about a single betrayal. It was layered, methodical, like she had rehearsed how to live two lives, and only now was being exposed for the performance. But what made it worse, so much worse, was that someone had helped her. In one of the photos, taken from the passenger seat of her car, I noticed something strange in the rearview mirror, a face. Blurry, but familiar. It wasn't Benton, the guy from the hotel. It was her coworker, Grace. The same Grace who used to text me memes. Who brought cupcakes to our housewarming party. Who once hugged me and said, "Mallory's lucky to have you." Turns out Grace had been more than just a friend. She was the cover, the alibi. Every night Mallory claimed she was with Grace. She technically wasn't lying. Grace was there. Just long enough to watch the lie come to life. And apparently, to document it. But that USB? That wasn't Mallory's backup plan. It wasn't labeled or hidden carefully. It felt out of place. Almost planted. And that's when it hit me. Someone wanted me to find it. Someone inside her circle was done playing along. And I had a pretty good guess who it was. I waited 3 full days before confronting the person I believed had planted the USB drive. Not because I wasn't sure, it was obvious once I connected the dots, but because I wanted to see how far Mallory would spiral first. I wanted to know how long she could live with the silence, with my sudden disappearance, with everything unraveling around her while pretending nothing was her fault. She didn't disappoint. On the first day, she messaged my sister, asking if she'd heard from me. Claimed I stormed out, after a minor disagreement, and left no note. Classic Mallory. Rewrite the narrative. Paint herself as the confused and concerned wife. On the second day, she emailed my boss pretending to be worried about my mental health. My boss forwarded it to me with a single line, "You good?" I told him I was better than I'd ever been. By the third day, she showed up at my sister's house with a bag of my things and a face full of fake tears. My sister didn't even let her inside. She handed her the box of my stuff. Yes, she'd packed one, and shut the door without saying a word. Mallory was cracking, and I didn't even have to lift a finger. But while she was busy trying to find me, I was already parked outside Grace's apartment, waiting. I didn't call ahead. I didn't send a message. I wanted to see her reaction when she opened the door and found me standing there with the USB drive in my hand. She looked surprised, but not panicked. That told me everything. "Can I come in?" I asked, my voice lower than usual. She stepped aside silently. No questions. No fake pleasantries. We sat in her living room without a word for a long minute before she finally spoke. "You found it. You wanted me to," I said. Grace looked down at her hands. She was picking at her nail polish, something Mallory used to do when she was lying. "I couldn't take it anymore," she said. "The lies. The way she talks about you like you're disposable. It made me sick." I didn't respond. I just stared at her until she kept going. "She used me as her cover for months. Told me to text you if you ever got suspicious. I thought it was just a fling at first, but when she started bringing that guy around, Benton, I realized she was never going to stop. You were just," background to her, "a placeholder." "Why now?" I finally asked. "Why the drive?" She hesitated. "Because she told Benton you were spineless. That you'd never leave. That she could come back whenever she wanted and you'd still be waiting." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "I didn't do it for you," she added. "I did it because I hated who I became helping her lie to you." I nodded. That was fair. I wasn't looking for heroes. I was just glad someone had finally peeled back the mask Mallory wore so perfectly. Before I left, Grace handed me a piece of paper with an address scribbled on it. "She'll be there tonight," she said. She told Benton it was their real anniversary. Whatever that means. I stared at the address for a long time after I got back to the car. Part of me wanted to drive straight there and blow everything up. Confront them. Shame them. burn the whole illusion down in front of their smug little faces. But then I remembered something far more satisfying. She still thought I'd be home when she came crawling back. And now, I had the perfect way to welcome her. I arrived at the address Grace had given me just before 9 p.m. It was a small house tucked behind a row of old trees, the kind of place you wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it. Warm lights flickered inside. A car I didn't recognize was parked in the driveway, definitely not Mallory's, and definitely not mine. I stayed across the street, engine off, lights out. I didn't need to go in. I wasn't there for a confrontation. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. At exactly 9:13, the front door opened. Mallory stepped out, holding a wine glass, barefoot, laughing. She leaned into the doorway, whispered something to whoever was inside, then kissed him. It was Benton. I couldn't see him fully, just his silhouette, but it was enough. His hand on her waist. Her face tilted up like she'd done this 1,000 times. I didn't take pictures. I didn't need proof anymore. The proof had already buried whatever was left of our marriage. I watched for another 5 minutes, just long enough to burn it into memory, then drove off without her ever knowing I was there. When I got back to the hotel, I opened my laptop and uploaded everything from the USB into a secure drive. Every image, every video, every text thread. I didn't plan to release it publicly. I'm not that guy, but I wanted it documented, organized, ready. I sent a copy to my lawyer with a short note. Use only if she tries to lie in court. Then, I sent one final text to Mallory. Short, deliberate. It said, I saw you tonight. Don't bother coming home. You'll find out soon enough what else I've seen. I knew she wouldn't reply right away. She'd need time to process the panic. She'd call Grace. She'd assume it was her. She'd scream, cry, maybe even drive to the house looking for me again. But it didn't matter. The trap was already set. Earlier that day, I'd changed the locks. I'd canceled her access to our utilities and removed her name from the storage unit, where she'd unknowingly packed half my things while I pretended to clear my head. I'd withdrawn my portion of our savings, froze the credit line, and redirected all my mail to a private mailbox 2 counties over. But the most important thing? I filed for divorce that morning, with all the evidence attached, time-stamped, witnessed, irrefutable, and I requested everything she never thought I would. The house, the dog, the savings. Not because I wanted to punish her, though I won't lie, that part felt good, but because I needed her to finally see what it looked like when the man she thought was too weak to leave actually left. At 11:02 p.m., she finally replied. What did you do? I didn't answer. I just sat back, stared at the blinking cursor on my phone, and waited for her to understand the one thing she never expected. She lost me. For real. I didn't respond to her message. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not ever. I let her words sit in that little blue bubble, unanswered, just like all the times she left my own questions floating in silence. I had nothing left to say, not to the woman who thought I'd wait forever while she played house with someone else, not to the woman who smiled while stabbing me in the back. Over the next week, the silence between us became official. My attorney served her the divorce papers in person, at her job, while she was in the middle of some fake smile marketing meeting. From what I heard, she tried to hold it together, tried to joke about it in front of her coworkers. But the moment she got to her car, she broke down. She called me 16 times that day. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I moved forward. I moved out of the hotel and into a modest place not far from where I grew up. Quiet, a little beat up around the edges, but mine. I started sleeping again. I mean really sleeping. No more 3 a.m. pacing. No more staring at the ceiling wondering who she was with. No more sick feelings in my gut every time her phone lit up. And the strangest thing? I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. A few weeks after everything was finalized, I bumped into someone unexpected. Her name was Dana. We'd gone to the same high school, worked at the same grocery store years ago. I barely recognized her, but she remembered me immediately. Said I looked lighter. Said I seemed different. I told her the truth. I'd been through hell, but I finally found the exit. We got coffee, then dinner, then more dinners. It wasn't perfect. I wasn't ready to jump into anything serious at first, and she never pressured me. But she listened. And when I told her everything, the real everything, not just the betrayal, but the way I'd disappeared, the silence, the mess of emotions, I expected her to flinch or change the subject. She didn't. She just nodded and said, Sounds like you survived something most people wouldn't. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if Dana and I will become something bigger. But what I do know, what I finally, truly understand, is that Mallory was never my forever. She was the anchor I mistook for a lighthouse. Now, I'm rebuilding. Slowly, steadily, without lies, without games, without looking over my shoulder. And for the first time in years, I actually want to see where this road leads.